Hello YouTube friends, I'm just back from Scotland, from Edinburgh, where I've spent the whole weekend in this fabulous workshop of James, who is a weaver who offers courses, and I and three others went on this weaving course. I think I told you about it a while ago. Look at all these colours. I looked hard at the colours and I chose colours that would go with my coat. You know, my lovely coat that I love to wear. Well, those are the three colours that I chose. I was quite restrained. I thought I might put loads of bonkers colours in, but those were the three I chose. It's a fabulous workshop. Here it is. We needed 2 strands of each colour for the warping mill, and so I'm making a second bobbin of that Chianti, the pink. That's what that one's called. Okay then, so we needed to create a warp which is about 1.5 meters long. So in order to do that without it tangling, you use this warping mill, and here's James showing us how to do that. So here I am on my own warping mill now, and this makes a length of wool. There were nearly 200 of them by the time I'd done this, but in a very particular way, so that I have to wind these pairs of yarn around those sticks at the bottom, over and under, and then in placing it onto this warping mill, you can't actually see the top of this. I was having to film this, you know, by propping the iPad up in various places. So by the time I'd done this then, there were nearly 200 strands of wool that were 1.5 meters long, which were going to make the warp on my for my scarf. That's what we were all going to be making today, is a length of fabric that could be used as a scarf. So I had to count really carefully, as well as wrapping it in a very particular way. It's very challenging actually, but I got the hang of it in the end. So then James helped me take it off the warping mill, and we've got this long length of warp which would tangle up if you didn't treat it properly. And then we're putting it onto the loom. The back of the loom is facing us here, and so I'm holding these sticks here, and what we're going to do now is put all of that yarn, put all of that yarn onto the back of the loom. Obviously we have to spread it out. So yeah, I get to cut that little bit of string there that was holding it together, because now it's safely on a stick. So what are we doing next? So next we've got a thing called a raddle, which is it's a piece of wood with nails at every 1/2 inch. And what I had to do was spread out these glasses on, Kate, spread them out so that they, for each 1/2 inch section, there were 10 pieces of wool. This is merino wool. It's beautiful wool. So if you can see that brown piece of wool that's looped around it, when I was putting it onto making the warp, I put those on so that I could count them, but I'm still checking them so that there are 10 in each of these sections. I'm just counting they're in pairs, because I did it on the warping mill in pairs. Here we go. I know what I'm talking about. If you're a weaver, I apologise now, but if you're not, then maybe some of this will be a bit interesting for you. So there it is, that thing with the elastic band, a simple little thing to keep the wool on the nails. That's the raddle. So now that long warp that I created on the warping mill, James is teasing it out and pulling it out, and then we're going to roll it onto the back of the loom. I'm still working at the back of the loom. And this is hard for me to show you because I was actually doing it, so it's hard to film it. But that newspaper there is in between each of the layers of the wool. Next then, those strings, those white strings you can see, we've turned the loom round now and I'm working from the front. They are called heddles. And the metal rods that the heddles are hanging from, there are 4 of them, because this is a 4-shaft loom. And each of those 4 can be lifted up independently of each other. And the heddles, those white things, which have got a little hole in the middle, they're each tied to a different one of those rods. Now, in order to do this weaving and properly, I had to make sure that when I put each one of these warp threads through, I was doing them in the correct sequence. So I was putting a thread through number 1 rod, then number 2, then number 3, then number 4. And the way that I found that was easiest to do was by lifting each of the rods so that I could find, there we go, I could find number 1 string, then lift number 2 and I could find number 2's heddle, 3, number 3's heddle, and then 4, number 4's heddle, so that they were all there, one behind each other, so that when I picked up the next bundle of warp threads, I didn't get mixed up. It worked quite well. I didn't get them wrong. I got each one of them with the little hook through that small hole in the middle. And that took a long time. Everything takes a while to get the warp threaded onto the loom. And, you know, you might be a bit impatient to get on with the weaving, but in fact, I remember my friend Jane saying to me once, the warp is half of the cloth. So it should take all day to put a warp on a loom. Some looms take weeks to warp up, really complicated ones with loads and loads of complex heddles and so on. So that was what I did next. There they all were. Each of those strings is holding each of those pieces of wool in the correct order and tied off in little bundles so that all your good work is not undone. Okay, now the next piece of kit, the thing on the right there, is called a reed. And so each pair of these warp threads had to be threaded through one of those slots in the reed. I'm sorry if my hand's in the way, but you can sort of see that I'm finding 2 threads next to each other. So in my case, how it worked out was 2 and 3 went through the reed and 1 and 4 went through the reed. It's just how it worked out. It could have been some other way, but that was how it worked out for mine, threading up. So I did that. That took a long time. And the reed is attached to that piece of wood at the top with a piece of string. And that's, in the weaving process, that's the thing that is the beater, which we'll be seeing a bit later on. So lots of threading. And this has got to be accurate as well. You can't have 1 in one and 3 in another. You have to have the whole thing really accurately threaded up. So around about this time I thought, I don't really want to buy a loom. I think it's too complicated. I was very much enjoying it, but I don't think it's something that I want to carry on and do forever and ever. Okay, once all those were in there then, that's they're all tied off through the reed, and I think the loom was pretty much ready to begin weaving, but that was the end of the first day. And I was tired. So I'm going to get back to you with the second day and the weaving in part 2. Thanks for watching, guys.